courage to leave behind. So when I talk about the unifying factors, I don't say they are exclusively foreign. I say it's foreign negative factors working with internal negative factors to destroy the continent. What we need to do then is to find out what our own positive factors are and to start building the continent from inside. I'm perfectly sure that once we start doing that, we'll find that there are other people, other parts of the world who are engaged in the same process, and there can be a confluence of forces.
Thank you. Now I'll turn to Professor.
At this point in time, we'd like to invite questions from the Morehouse. If you have a question, please come to one of the two mics. Yes. We're going to start with just the first three people go up to the mic. And the way we will handle this, we will have the first three gentlemen state their questions, and then we will ask Mr. Armah. We'll give Mr. Armah the opportunity to respond. So, state your question briefly, and then wait. Okay. Yes.
Hello, Mr. Armah. My name is
Hi.
The question I have to you about your work as a whole. So, your book's coming out now, starting your work to work time now. How do you feel like your writing has evolved to where you are now? You know, you're using where the audience is.
There's some noise coming in the background interfering with your question. Could you restate your question?
My question was, do you feel like your work has evolved from where you started writing to where you are now?
Talk about the evolution of your work, Ayi Kwei.
Good. I hope my work has evolved, because it would be a tragedy if from the age of 26, 27, when I began publishing, to now, when I'm 76, there has been no evolution. My person is evolving gradually through adulthood, and soon I'll be joining the ancestors. My work has tried to stay connected with the voice of the ancestors and the voice of those who are yet to come. I hope that has been constant in my work, because the way we live, we're being pushed constantly to pay attention to the present, to earn a living, to make more money, to get up the ladder, to get promotions, and we forget that our community isn't just us. It's not those of us living now only. It's everybody who's lived and everybody who's about to come. And if we live responsibly, we are going to be aware in the decisions we make today how we shall impact those still to come. That's why my work from its beginning has been concerned with the fate of those not yet born. And I have taken inspiration from those who died long ago, because it's the connection between the remote past and the distant future that will give us our way forward. Now, if my work has evolved, then that connection can be traced more strongly through the different books that I write. Right now, I'm doing 2 books. I hope those 2 books would make it unnecessary for me to write anymore. When I finish those 2 books, I don't intend to write anything. I will see that the evolution of my work has brought me to a point where I can say, okay, somebody else should take over. I'm going.
We have to end here in just a few minutes, but the other sites can continue. So I want to hear 2 more quick questions, and if I wait to make your answer short, then I'll dismiss our young men here, and then we can continue with the other 2 sites. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Ask you.
You're at the college, and my question to you, I'm sure you hope a lot of success, but you're facing a lot of negativity. So my question is, as young students, what nugget of inspiration can you give all of us to walk away with, help us go through the next step?
Okay, before you answer that, let's hear the last question.
That great government, in it, that ourselves, Africa, well, we believe that God is the answer to the English. After we
I heard the first question very clearly, but not the second. Please repeat the second question.
The second question was, will we have to be able to eventually deal with things, such as if we have an experience before, like we had rituals that we could help us deal with things before, but I don't think we experience different rituals.
Good. Let me begin with the second question because it's fresh in my mind. Hello.
I need you now. We're going to 12:10. That's it. The light is for 12:10. All right. Ayi Kwei.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Hello.
That's enough, everybody. That's enough.
Okay. Shall I go on?
Yes, you should go.
Good. The second question was about healing rituals. Now, rituals are okay, but healing is not a ritual ceremony. Healing is at the center of life itself. The people who were taken across the ocean, slaughtered on the African land, and the survivors taken across to be enslaved, to work for nothing, that wasn't a ritual, symbolic thing. It was real. Therefore, healing behavior that can, well, not negate what has happened, but help us work our way forward, is not just a matter of rituals. It's going to be how we behave all our lives. Which means if we can establish good, meaningful relationships with each other, we are going on the healing path. If we can establish healing institutions, we are on the path. Rituals will not do anything if after the rituals we go back to our lives in the surrounding negativity. We have to live outside the negativity in the positive reality. So, rituals, fine, but rituals tend to locate positive values in a constricted space. I am for making the whole of our lives the healing process. The first question was about negativity, partly in my own life and maybe in yours too. Well, negativity we cannot avoid. We will always have shit thrown at us. The point is not to swallow it, but to know how to get rid of it, how to clean it, how then to get on with our lives to do what we need to do, instead of obsessing about the negativity. Meaning that every time you meet somebody negative, you're also going to meet others who are positive. Stick to the positive. Let the negative go. Now, yes, I have had a lot of flack thrown at me, negative stuff. But if I worried about it, I wouldn't be able to do any work at all. So I concentrate on the work that I can do, and that's the advice that I would give to any young person. Anything that happens to you, no matter how hard, if it doesn't kill you, you can work. So work. Do the positive thing. Good. Bye-bye.
Okay, so here we are in Ghana. Can you hear us?
Very well.
Okay, wonderful. We have a few questions that have come from the audience, but I would like to give priority to two of our dignitaries who are here, Chimwezu and Prof. Anyudoho, who I saw the other day said he was going to see you in Senegal. So if they have anything, I will let them have priority. If not, I will go to the questions that have already been handed to me.
Yeah.
Okay. Chimwezu wants to go after the questions. Okay. So one of the questions is coming from one of the students from our travels to Burkina Faso and Mali. I came to find that not connecting to a people linguistically can be daunting. Towards unification and healing, how do we overcome the challenge of language in an African-centered way? Should I read the second question, or I'll let you deal with that one first?
Let's deal with them seriatim, one after the other,
No problem.
instead of in parallel. Okay? Is that all right by you?
That is wonderful.
Good. Language. Yes, the fact that we don't have an African language is a serious problem that we need to solve. Now, language is a social issue. It is created by society working together. I think if people are serious about wanting one African language, then this is the time for some of us to get together and see how languages evolve. If we do the groundwork, the time will come when people in a position to act will need that African language. If there is no preparatory work done, then they will look around and find nothing but problems. If we, as scholars, artists, intellectuals, do that work, then when the time comes that serious people want one African language, they will find that language ready. We can do that work. Now, by an African language, I don't mean my mother tongue. My mother tongue is fancy. I speak fancy, but fancy is useless for communicating with a Zulu or a Xhosa or a Nyamwezi or African Americans, some of the newest ethnic groups that have come from the African experience. We need to find a way of communicating with everybody, not just our mother tongue, you see. So I would give priority to a unifying language. We don't have that yet. There was a time when we thought, well, Kiswahili could do it. But no, Kiswahili is okay, but it doesn't cover the continent. What we can do is to put elements together in such a way that people who speak Kiswahili will recognize themselves the moment they see this new language. Because the new language is going to come from what already exists. You see, I'm not inventing anything. Creativity springs out of the seeming chaos that's already around us. Africa has so many different languages. So if we want elements for one new language of communication, we've got a lot to choose from. Once we know what we want to do, what we need to do is to make sure that at a certain point, schools teach that everywhere that people are interested in this African language. That means people don't have to abandon their mother tongue or their interior language like mine, which is English, or French, which is Choms. Now, we can continue using whatever language we want, but we will acquire one common communicative language. That will make sure that every African speaking to another African has one linguistic tool that they can use, and nothing will stand in their way. That would be a good beginning.
Just as a follow-up to that, would you think an ancient language should be revitalized like Megunecha, or something newer like an Esperanto type of creation?
And the way languages evolve, you cannot take an ancient language and simply revitalize it. It would take a great magician to take, the language of ancient Egypt, which, by the way, was not called Megunecha. It was called Ro and Kemet. That is the language or the tongue or the mouth of Kemet. Now, Megunecha is just the script, the written form of the language. It's like the difference between English and Roman, Times Roman script. Okay? Now, if we want to use one ancient African language as a basis for the work of creating a new language, we can do that, but we will need people who are willing to learn to read and to write the language. Many people think it's very difficult. Well, it is difficult, but not very. If you're determined, you can read it. We went to school and we were taught to read Latin and French and English, and we didn't. We can easily study ancient Egyptian writings if we want to. Now, people who do that work can then get together with specialists in other African languages and help to create the common root of a new language. And it will be up to the children who learn that language in school as a sort of play to then helps the language evolve by adding new words and so forth until people communicate naturally with the evolving language. It is possible. And I am willing to work with anybody who is prepared to devote time and energy, skill and intelligence to that.
Beautiful. All right, so we have some collaboration. All right, the next question is, in your view, how are Africans to utilize the International Decade for People of African Descent Towards Healing, which was declared by the UN, and we are now in that decade? Is that clear?
The question was unclear. Could you please restate it?
Yes, in your view, how are Africans to utilize the International Decade for People of African Descent Towards Healing, which was declared by the UN? The UN declared this decade that we have come into now as the International Decade for People of African Descent. So how can we use that towards healing?
You mean we have to get on the UN agenda?
According to the question, yes. Do we hop on the UN agenda, or is that the answer to the question?
Well, the UN has an agenda. African people have an agenda. I don't know if the two are the same. I know something about the African agenda. I know very little about the UN agenda, so I'm not qualified to speak to your question.
Okay, no problem. How are we for time? Do we have time for, we have two more questions here. Are we okay? And these two can possibly be combined into one. I think the time is going as we're deciding, so let me ask. Why did you choose to be in Senegal and not Tanzania or Nigeria, for example? Then also, how can we get your books here in Ghana, particularly Osiris Rising and Kemet, and your latest works, The Revolutionary, Sanhat, and so forth?
Okay, there are two questions. The first one, why did I choose Senegal instead of Tanzania? Well, actually, before coming to Senegal, I was in Tanzania. It was my plan to get to know Africa, since I wanted to write as an African, not as a tribalist or as a colonial nationalist, but as an African. It was my responsibility to get to know the society of Africa in all its different corners. So I planned to go and live and work in North Africa. I did that. In East Africa, I did that. In South Africa, I did that. And I was coming back to West Africa where I was born. Should I have gone back to the place where I was born? No, I'm not a plant. I moved my sustenance is. There was a scholar in Senegal who's of great importance to the rebirth of Africa, Sheikh Anta Diop. He was the one scholar who was saying, hey, what these Europeans have been teaching us is a bunch of lies. What we need to do is to learn our own history and go back as far as we can and not get tired until we reach the very, very roots. Now, he lived here. Recently, his family has been mourning the death of his wife, who was buried a week ago in Chetu. Now, it is because this writer, this intellectual, was here that I thought, okay, let me take a look at what's happening in Senegal. It's an interesting society, but the scholarship that came from this man made me want to get here. Now, once I arrived, the beauty of the place, the beauty of the people, you know, it all combined so that now I'm too old to travel and I live here. My children have grown, I have grandchildren now, so that's life.
Okay, and your books, how can we get your books here, particularly some of your latest works, Osiris Rising, Kemet, and your latest works were mentioned specifically?
It's very easy to get my books anywhere. What we need is one honest distributor in every place where people want to buy the books. One honest distributor. The way we sell our books, we make the books here, we print them wherever we can print them, and then we ship them to a distributor. That distributor has the responsibility of selling the book at the price we list on the cover, keeping 50% of the price, and sending us 50% so we can continue our work, pay the authors, and so forth. Now, if you can find one honest person in Ghana willing to work as a distributor and to send us our 50%, well, we will ship the books there for them to sell and to give us our 50%. But if you cannot find anybody willing to pay us our 50%, then don't bother.
Okay, so it sounds like we will collaborate because you have one honest, at least one honest person in this room. I can't speak for anyone else, but you have at least one. So we'll see how to make it happen. All right, I think we may need to shift back over to Morehouse. I'm not sure, but we have our dignitaries here as well. I heard that we can continue to go in our own venues, but they would possibly be going off. Any feedback? Are we okay to continue on the Ghana venue?
University of Ghana. You all have a question. You have a question?
Yes, we do.
I have one question which arises from the initial statement that you made, Ayi Kwei, about the healing process. And I know that in your work, at one point you analyzed this and you made a very profound suggestion. We can heal the body, but we need also to heal the mind. But beyond that, you made a statement about the highest art of healing being dedicated to what you describe as knowledge of the craftsmanship of the soul. The highest art of healing among the best healers, like Nkrumah, dedicated to knowledge of the craftsmanship of the soul. Could you talk a little bit of this for us? Way beyond healing the body, the mind, into the art of healing.
Okay. In the conversation where Danforth talks about the higher healing, he's not talking about the highest art being the healing of the soul. He says it's the healing of society. That's different. You can have one individual with a terribly healthy body, the same individual with a healthy soul, and that individual who has a healthy mind in a healthy body will be living in a society rotten with filth. That's not healthy. The healing art should come.
I'll be first get more complicated. I'll turn it over to more, get more out, because we want them to be so few. And in the world, I'm doing that, and basically we have that line, many of them.
Many thanks for making this possible. It's a pleasure.
Again, God bless you all. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Armah, we have a question here in Ghana coming from Chimwezu. I hope I'm getting the tones on the name right, if not, you will correct me.
Hi, Chinwe. Hello.
Yeah,
I hope you're okay.
yes, I'm okay. As much as one can be at that age. All right. I was intrigued by your explication of what you meant by the beautiful ones.
Okay.
And I was just wondering, if we are waiting for the beautiful ones, shall we ever solve our problems? Because it seems to me they are, from your description, rarities. And in my view, if we are waiting for the rare bird, we will not be in a position to solve our problems. So isn't there a way possible for us to look for even the unbeautiful ones, to put them together in such a way that the outcome is what we desire in terms of the healing? And is there any way we can begin to look into that possibility? Thank you.
Okay. You are asking for a dialectical process then. The creation of a beautiful world with the agency of the ugly ones. Now, I don't really think it is necessary, because when I say the beautiful ones are not yet born, it doesn't mean they will never be born. It means things have to be done to make the birth happen. You know, parents hoping to have a child, they don't just sit and wait. You said, while waiting for the beautiful ones to be born. Now, you know about parenting. If you want a child, you don't wait. You make love. And then, if everything goes well, the children come. I'm suggesting that rather than waiting for something to happen, we can initiate processes that prepare the ground for this desirable thing to happen. That is work, you see. You know, something tragic happened at the time of independence. The people like Nkrumah, who in the beginning looked like the beautiful ones about to be born, they were very impatient about administration. So what did they do? Instead of creating an African administrative system, they agreed to take the existing administrative system and they walked straight into the state castle. Do you hear me? Now, okay, now that was the result of impatience. The work that needed doing was the creation of an African way of running Africa. What we ended up accepting, because we were in a hurry, I don't know to go where, but we agreed, us agreed to take the existing system of administration and to pretend that that was an African system. Well, it wasn't. It still isn't. It's a European system, and if you want to know when it was created in Benin and imposed on Africa. So we have 54 states, you see. Now, that is the result when people are impatient about what they want, and instead of creating the right vehicle, they hop on whatever vehicle is available. It will take them in the wrong direction. I think we have to do the real work that's required to see what is an African system of government. What is an African economy? Does an African economy have a place for unemployed people? If so, we will deserve the Boko Haram. If an African economy has a place for youth who have no access to universities, then we will be asking for trouble. But I think we can design an African system which has such strong values that from birth, every African child knows it's going to have a good education, and every African adolescent can look forward to a decent job. That is what I'm thinking about, and we don't have to wait. We can work towards it.
Okay, we have more from Ghana, if you have more energy. One is, in the years since the publication of The Beautiful Ones Are Not Yet Born, has your view of Kwame Nkrumah changed?
My view of Kwame Nkrumah hasn't changed. I liked the man from the very first time I saw him. I was a little school boy then. He was a prisoner. Before he was jailed, he had been seen in the marketplace eating on the ground with people, talking to them about the changes that needed to be made. Now, that process by which he initiated change in the society was a fantastically beautiful process. What happened later was that he was persuaded that he, an African living in a colony, should move into the slave castle and replace the European governor. Well, the rest is history. And I still think Kwame Nkrumah was the best politician that we have ever had. But he got isolated when he was taken into the castle. He was persuaded to become a colonial administrator, the governor, alias president. And a lot of things followed that may have been prevented, I don't know. Since then, I have tried to understand why such a good person, because Kwame Nkrumah was an extremely good person, why such a good person would end up getting embroiled in a machinery that was so negative, the colonial state machinery. The two books I'm working on now are about that riddle, and I think I have found some element of information that allows me to understand a little better what happened. I'm ready to share that information once I finish the project that I've been doing now. We're doing a book that's a translation of an ancient Egyptian story into 12 languages, 3 of them European, 9 of them African. Once I finish that, I'm going back to the Nkrumah book I'm writing, and another book which is a bit more philosophical. and then I will write no more.
We will miss you. But we have a question coming in from a high school, and they're saying, what can young teens of 16 and over do to rebuild the continent, given that there seems so little to build on? These are the students of SOS High School.
Hello.
Yes, we hear you.
Good. But there's a past student of that high school, the SOS High School, sitting beside me right now, and she's refusing to show her face. Aisha, please come.
Hello everyone. Hi, my name is Aisha. I went to SOS between 1997 and 2001. And I've written 2 books. One of them is called Hamatan Rain, and the other one, Saturday Shadows.
SOS Unite. Yeah.
All right. Now, this is one SOS student who decided to be a writer. She came here some years ago hoping to learn writing technique. I say I teach writing technique, but this student, when she came, I couldn't teach her anything, because the moment I began to explain what needed to be done, I would find that she had already done it. You see, she was that smart. So she has come, and then the second time she came, she wanted to learn how to read ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics, because she had understood that there was a lot of information in there that Africans could use. Well, she was here for less than a year. At the end of that time, I think she could read better than I could. So, children, young people who are looking to make a future life for themselves, there's plenty of work in the field of African literature, writing, filmmaking, videos, everything. But you need a lot of information. And African history has plenty. So I would advise you to get as knowledgeable as possible about all African history. This means take seriously the information you're being given in the languages such as English and French. Go beyond those languages. Go into Latin if you have a chance. Go into Greek if you have a chance. And by all means, go into ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs, because that language contains much more information than you have ever been given. And it's older, you see. Normally, your history teachers and philosophy teachers will tell you that philosophy began in Greece with Plato and Aristotle and so forth. Well, thousands of years before Plato and Aristotle, people in ancient Egypt were writing philosophy. So if you learn to read that, you will be able to get straight to the source. And once you get fresh water from the source, well, anything is possible. I wish you luck.
We have 2 more quick questions. All right. One is, in the pursuit of one African language, is the pursuit of one African language not a form of colonization? That's coming from the audience.
It would be a cooperative enterprise. Colonization is always a violent enterprise. People who are armed, they come in, they kill people, and they take over. No. The pursuit of one African language is just people who believe that we need a single instrument of communication, coming together and developing that language. Nobody will impose it on anybody. Everybody interested in it will work at it, and the way we persuade people to take that language is to make it attractive enough so that children will love it. And when they go to school, they will do well at learning the language. Now, if that is colonialism, then we have to redefine colonialism.
Very good. And the second one, what does mentorship mean in the act of healing, taking the relationship between Densu and the healer in the healers?
Mentorship is just one arc of a very large cycle, you see. Mentorship means one generation is taking responsibility for the next generation that's coming up, instead of abandoning the children to their own devices. Now, mentorship means I was mentored by people who are now gone. I am mentoring people who are coming up. They will mentor other people, and so on. So the links between different parts of our society remain unbroken across time. What happened to us to bring such ugliness into this continent is that the processes of mentorship, the processes connecting one generation to another, one society to another, one group to the other, these processes are broken. We need to relink the broken links, and that's what mentorship helps to do. It's older people feeding the young with sustenance, both material and spiritual. It is necessary.
Okay. And we have a follow-up. Yesterday, someone came to my office. I'm not sure if he's here right now, but he was from the Theater Arts Department, and he mentioned that they were interested in bringing you here for a semester, if not a year, if not forever, as a writer, scholar in residence, and they were wondering if that was something that you would be open to. I'm sure that it could be collaborative because several departments would be trying to use your services to the best of our ability, so if you can deal with that. And then in general, also, when are you planning on coming to Ghana next?
What I heard the question was that someone was interested in bringing people over. Let me say strangely that my days I'm just too old to travel to teach. My eyes are weak. My heart is weak. I have the body of a 76-year-old man. And even though I exercise as healthily as I can, I'm too old to take up any kind of academic appointment. So, thank you very much for thinking about me. No, I'm not in a position to take up a job any place. I'm retired. That said, I will continue until I can find no more. When I finish these 2 books that I'm working on, I'll start but the organization will continue producing work, and people are welcome to. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Okay, wonderful. And then finally we have, what is it that needs to be done that Aisha did in terms of cultivating writing technique?
Sorry, the sound is not.
Yeah, there's a bit of an echo. The question is, what is it that needs to be done that Aisha did? What is it that needs to be done that Aisha did in terms of writing technique?
You said, what is it that, and then I heard nothing.
What is it that needs to be done that Aisha did? What did she do in terms of writing technique? What can be done in terms of writing technique?
It's not coming through.
In terms of writing technique, what did Aisha do to learn writing technique?
What did Aisha do to learn writing technique?
Yes.
Aisha? Okay. Luckily, Aisha is here. She's an extremely articulate young lady. I shall invite her to answer that question. Aisha, what did you do to learn writing technique? Over to you, Aisha.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Wonderful. Thank you for the question. Some of the things that I did while I was here included reading. That was a large part of learning technique. Reading books from ancient Egypt, books from ancient China, books from Europe, books through the ages. I read Anna Karenina, all sorts of books just to see what had been done over the years. And then it also involved just picking apart sentences, seeing how words came together, and what the various elements that come together to make the story are. Like with a building, you have building blocks, so figuring out what those building blocks were. And as I read, seeing how each author used each of these things, or did not use some of these elements to create their stories. And briefly, some of these elements include plot, narrative, characters, obviously all sorts of things that make any story come alive. Dialogue. So those were the things I learned. And then in addition, I learned a little more beyond that. I learned to put together a book. So Hamatan, I did the layout of, I learned how to use InDesign. I learned a bit about the publishing business. So it was a complete learning process here. It wasn't just learning how to write, it was how to produce books, how to create the content, and how to package project, the package project products that I could sell. Hope that answers the question.
It does. I think we have one. Oh, it's okay. You know. Okay. All right. We have 3 more questions, but we have an event immediately after this at 5, and I think we may have to cut it short. Mr. Armah, would it be possible to perhaps have a follow-up session? I think you use the headphones. I was saying that we have 3 more questions, but we have to get out of here because there's an event set to start in the same room at 5. And just out of the spirit of not trying to be selfish, even though we could ask you questions until tomorrow morning, would it be possible perhaps to have a follow-up event with you where those of us here in Ghana specifically would be able to interact with you? Because every 2 seconds someone is coming up and handing me a sheet of paper here. Would that be possible?
A follow-up event.
Yes.
Well, yes, in agreement with Morehouse, was that this wasn't going to be a one-off event.
Okay.
We're going to have several of them. So if you're, I assumed you're staying connected between
Yes.
Morehouse, Accra, and Dakar.
Yes, by all means.
Very good. So you will be informed of the dates for the follow-up events. I have no idea when they're going to be, but I'm available when you, in your institutional settings, have the time.
Wonderful. Okay. Yeah, and everyone, we would like to thank you for coming. Those of you who've been running up and handing me questions, I'd like to thank you for those. We will see if we can forward those on to Ayi Kwei Armah so that he can actually answer them. But someone just came up to me and said, 5 o'clock, the next one is coming. We need to move out so the next one can move in. So we thank you all for your understanding, for your time as well. If you can give. All right, bye-bye. Thank you once again. All right. Excellent event. Thank you.